Hey guys, I'm Dave Trull and welcome to the Trull Gallery. If you've been following along in my videos, you've probably heard me talk about how I'm rebuilding and refitting my shop. I took about a 6-year sabbatical from woodworking, got rid of a lot of my equipment, and now I'm in the process of replacing the things I've got rid of. And maybe you've heard me say that I don't have a planer yet. Well, guess who has a planer now? This guy. I just picked up a DeWalt DW735 2-speed 13-inch planer. I had its little brother, the 733, for years, and it worked great. And I've used the 735 before, and I look forward to running some stock through it. Since this portable planer, and I use the term portable loosely, comes in at about 90 pounds, and I have limited shop space, I decided I'd build a stand for it so I could move it around when I needed it and get it out of the way when I don't. The dimensions for the stand I built are based on the DeWalt stand, but I didn't feel like spending $150 for a stand, so I built one for closer to $60. And let's see how that came together. I started with some select 2x4x8s and cut them to the necessary lengths with my miter saw. 4 pieces at 24 inches, 4 at 19 inches, and 4 at 17 7/8. Next, I got out my vintage Kreg K2000 pocket hole jig and drilled 2 holes on either end of the short side pieces, as well as the uprights. I made sure that I had the jig and the bit stop collar set at the proper locations for use with 2x4s. Then I started the assembly by attaching the uprights to the long side pieces. I used original Titebond glue and 2.5-inch pocket hole screws. I clamped a square to the stock to hold the pieces in place and drove the screws home. I did this for the other 3 corners and then repeated the process for the opposite side. I used the same process to attach the 4 short side pieces. Glue, clamp, screw, and repeat. I made sure to keep all my pocket holes on the inside of the stand for a cleaner look. The last side was added in the same way, except this time I added glue to all 4 corners, lined 2 of them up, and clamped them in place. After driving the 4 screws on this side, I turned the piece around and clamped and drilled the last 2 pieces individually, ensuring that everything was lined up and square. I had some 3/4 maple ply on hand, and it happened to be 24 inches wide. Since that's the width of my stand, I just needed to cut it to length, in this case 22 inches. With a plywood blade on my table saw, I set the fence and cut the 2 pieces to size. I laid out the location of my screw holes in the plywood 3/4 of an inch in from the side so that they would hit the center of the 2x4s. I placed the ply on the stand, centered it, and clamped it in place. I pre-drilled the 4 corners with a countersink bit and drove in 4 2-inch by number 8 wood screws. Then I went back and drilled and drove in the balance of the screws to hold the top in place. The same procedure was used on the bottom plywood. With a 1/4-inch roundover bit in my router, I eased the edge on the top plywood. If the router base looks a little odd, it's because I usually use this router in the table. but I can pop it out and use this base as is. It was a little strange not having handles though. After marking the locations for the caster mounting holes, I drilled the 3 outer pilot holes with a 5/32 bit for each caster. The 4th hole would be a through hole, and to keep the inside shelf clean, I used an 1/8" bit to drill through and mark the location. I could then flip the stand and drill from the inside out. This prevented the 9/32 bit from blowing out on the face of the cart. I was less concerned about the underside of the ply. Once the holes were all drilled, I mounted the 4 casters with 3 1/4" by 2" lag screws and washers going into the 2x4 frames. The 4th fastener in each caster was a 1/4" by 20 by 1" bolt with nuts and washers. With all the casters in place, I flipped the stand over, and despite telling myself I wasn't going to do it, I sanded the stand and gave it a couple of coats of water-based urethane. Who was I kidding? I can't leave things looking shabby. It was finally time to open the planer box. Since this thing weighs over 90 pounds, I got some help lifting it out of the box and putting it up onto the cart. Ooh. The planer is pretty much ready to go out of the box. You just need to add the height adjustment handle. Using the onboard wrench, remove the screw, line up the flat on the handle with the flat on the mounting post, and replace the screw to hold it in place. After raising the planer head to get access to the mounting holes and centering the planer on the stand, I marked the locations for the mounting holes. Next, I moved the planer to one side, drilled 2 of the holes. Then I moved the planer and drilled the remaining holes. Since I was using 5/16 bolts, I used an 11/32 brad point bit to give me a little wiggle room. I recentered the planer on the stand to line up the mounting holes. I put a washer on 4 5/16 by 3" bolts, ran them through the planer mounting holes, through the stand, and then added another washer and nut. Once all 4 bolts were in place, I went back and tightened them down. Time to make that first cut. I had a piece of pine handy, so I ran it through the planer a few times. I'd forgotten how clean a cut this machine gives. These results are on the dimensioning setting. I can't wait to run some stock through on the finish setting. I don't have a dust collector yet, and planers make a mess. I planned on purchasing the chip collector bag that goes with this planer, but it seems to be extinct. After a little research, I came with what I hoped is a workable solution. One more nice thing about this planer is that it has a built-in dust blower. You don't need a vacuum, just someplace for the chips to go. Since most of my work is outside, or near to it, and planers create mostly chips and not much dust, I decided to go with a small dust collector bag rated at 30 micron, and I've added a link below for that. Then it was off to my big box store where I picked up a few more pieces. The 2" side of the reducer fit snugly on the dust port that came with the planer. I cut a 3" long piece of 3" PVC and inserted that into the other side of the reducer, and then I tightened both band clamps. On the other side of the PVC stub, I added a 45-degree turn. A 90 would work, but the lower the angle, the less work the chips have to do to get to the bag. Next, I cut a 12-inch piece of the PVC pipe, just long enough to get the bag out of the way of the stock coming through the planer. Before putting it on the 45, I took the time to add 4 screws to one end. The heads are there just to give the bag and clamps something to hold onto so it doesn't shoot off the end. I also cut off most of the screw length so they wouldn't catch chips and plug up the works. Then I popped the pipe into the elbow and slid the bag onto the end. I'm using zip ties to hold the bag in place for now, but as soon as I get over to my storage unit, I'll replace them with a strap clamp. If everything works as planned, I may cement everything in place, but for now it's just a friction fit. With the new collection system in place, it's time for another test run. It looks good, and everything is holding well. I think I've got it worked out. Now it's time to get down to some serious planing. I'm happy that I finally have a planer, and even happier that I can move it out of the way when it's not in use. I've already started the first job where I needed to reduce the thickness of the stock on hand, and it's coming along great. My dust collection system needs some tweaking, but it's holding it for now. I'd love to hear what you think about this video. Is there something I could have done different, easier, faster, more efficiently? Please let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and share it with your friends and family. If you want to see what else is coming up next, hit that subscribe button. I still have a lot of projects to do on my 95-year-old house. More work in the shop, some pieces for some customers, and we're still getting closer to build that shop in the back. If you'd like to help support the channel, we've got these great Trull Gallery t-shirts. They're available online in men's and women's fit, and I put links for those below. Shortly I have a set of plans for the planer stand available on my website, and once that's complete, I'll put that link in the description as well. And since this is going to be the first set of plans that I've done and made available, I'd love to hear what you guys think and if I need to make any changes or improvements. So for now, stay safe, have a great day, we'll see you soon. Take care.
Is this being recorded?
Yes.
I'm always looking to improve how I come forward for you guys and how I can help you learn and keep your things blah, 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 blah.